Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. On today's video, I'm going to use some Christmas scrapbooking paper on some wood earring blanks. Now you could cut your scrapbook paper with a silhouette, a Cricut. I'm going to use the Cricut Joy today. You could even just take a pen, trace around them, cut it out, and then just cut it slightly inside the line. You don't even need a cutter, but it sure is convenient. I think I'll make the oval pair out of this, a round pair out of the green and red polka dot, and then a round pair out of the red and dark polka dot. And on the backs and the sides of this earring, I'm going to use this dark walnut stain. And then on the sides of this oval one, I'm going to combine these so that I kind of match the background of this. And then on my green and red polka dot, I'm going to use this chalk paint. I think. Hopefully that'll be a good color for that. If not, I'll just change to some cheap acrylic craft paint, which you could do on all of these. I just want to show you 3 different methods. Now after I cut the paper on the sides of the paper, I'm just going to rub the sides on some dye or some stain, just so that you don't see the white of the paper. And then lastly, I'll attach them to my wood with Mod Podge, and I'll put a coat of the Mod Podge over the final product as well. So let's go ahead and get started with prepping the wood. Okay, so these 2 go with the ovals. A couple of these with the red and a couple of these with the stain. I'll go ahead and start with the stain. Now I cut my earring blanks with my Glowforge, but you can just buy blanks online through Amazon. I'll link to 2 or 3 of those. I was looking this morning and they have some excellent deals going on right now. Maybe I think I'll move my Joy just in case we have a little accident. Okay, so you can see that on the back there's these singe marks. And we'll cover over those. That's just what the laser does. And usually if I have a product that I'm not going to cover over, I mask the front with some masking paper and it keeps it where you don't see so much charring. And then I think I'll get just a toothpick ready because I'm going to use that to help hold the earrings in place. Okay, I'm going to start with the backs. And I don't really need to do this on the sides because with the laser, the sides are already dark brown. Just a thin coat of this stain will be perfectly fine. It's just a way to kind of finish them off, make them look more professional, look nicer. And that's it for the back. Now for the fronts, you can stain the whole piece of wood, or you could just stain around the edges. But since I don't know if my paper will show through at all, I'm just going to do the whole thing. Sometimes you might have a paper that it doesn't look like it's thin, but if you don't have the stain, let's say you just came in 1/4 of an inch and then the rest was really light, that could possibly show up. So for that reason, I'll just do the whole thing. All right, I probably should have waited and did the stain last so that my other pieces of wood don't get into that. All right, so this is chalk paint. It's by Waverly. This color is called Crimson. And I'm just going to use one of these little foam brushes. Oh, that's pretty. Then again, I can just hold it in place with my toothpick. Doesn't take a whole lot. just try to get your paint thin and even. Okay, while I'm letting that dry, I think I'll just set it up on top of this paint bottle. All right, set that over there. Let's go ahead and, whoops, haha, I'm using my bottles that I need to open. So let's just set these up on top here. I'm just going to put a little bit of each of these on my wax paper. These are old, old, old. I thought one was just a little bit too gold, and I thought the other was just too bland. So we're going to try to mix them. I just got my Cricut Joy about a week ago, and this is only my second time to use it. My first time to use it was in my unboxing video. So if you're interested in seeing a newbie work with the Cricut Joy, check out that video. So I have my 3 pieces of paper cut down to basically the size of the mat. And I'm going to start with some circles. I made the circles just a tiny bit smaller than the wood pieces so that I wouldn't accidentally have any of the paper hanging off the side. So I'll click on Make It. It asks me if I want to use it without a mat, on a mat. I'm going to select on the mat. Then I'll click Continue. Now for my material, this is just a thick paper. So I think I'm going to select deluxe paper. And there's 3 options: deluxe paper foil embossed, and deluxe paper with the adhesive backed. So I'm just clicking regular deluxe paper, done, and it's ready for me to send my paper in. So let's see if this is a good setting or not. Now the Joy sucks it in just to make sure that you have enough paper or whatever material you're using before it starts the cut. And then I have to click go on my screen to cut it. Then I'll press the unload and I can take it out. Now sometimes when I cut paper with my Cricut Maker, where the circle starts and ends is still barely attached to each other. Now let's see if that's the case with this. No, that cut it all out, and then look, it even cut the little circle for the jump ring. It cut that out beautifully. I am thrilled with that. Now this is more of a cardstock, so let me look and see what setting I can find for it. The first piece of paper was really just a thick piece of scrapbook paper. So I'm going to try medium cardstock. Now another good cut, the circle didn't quite release. There's that one. Okay. Now our last pair, this is really pretty, kind of old-fashioned-y Christmas paper. or Christmas design. It's actually cardstock. Okay, this is the oval set, and I moved my design on the right side down just a little bit. And I did that because I didn't want just a lot of this. I wanted it more down in this area. Now with the Cricut Joy, you can look to see if your cut's good, and then if it's not, you can say rerun. And this is a thicker cardstock, and I didn't change my settings, so I think I'll go ahead and hit rerun and see how that works. Okay, if that didn't cut it, oh, it did. Okay, good. And the nice thing is it just cuts in the exact same place flawlessly, and then it cut the little bitty jump ring hole out. I really love the Joy for paper. Now, if I had to pick between a Joy and a Maker though, I would hands down stick with my Maker. So if you're choosing between the two, really consider what you're going to use it for, what materials, what types of designs, and then make your choice after researching which machine does what. So we're ready to go ahead and put these on our wood blanks. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I put these onto my wood blanks is I'm going to ink the edges with something that I think is complementary to the paper and the wood blank itself. Now these red ones are going on the stained wood. So I'm going to put a little bit of brown stain on the side of those. And I have a nasty old brown stain that looks terrible, but it works for things like this. So I'm going to be really careful to try not to get any on the front. Now a little bit might seep into the front, and that's okay. It's going to match your background. So that is not a big deal if it slightly comes onto the front. And I just do it to knock off that white core of the paper. I don't want that to show from the side. All right, so let's get this nasty one out of here. And I have this really old fluid ink pad in yellow ochre, and I'm going to put that on the sides of these earrings. Hopefully that's going to look okay. And it doesn't look a lot different since it's still light. It's just going to barely take away the shine of that white. And then hopefully I don't regret this. I'm going to try to use this red ink on the sides of these. It will blend in with the red of the wood, so I think it'll be okay. Okay, so I found my large Mod Podge instead of that little bitty guy that was almost empty. And I couldn't get it open, so I started hitting it with a hammer and I broke the lid. So don't hit the top of your Mod Podge with a hammer. Okay, I really love this paper, so I'm going to start with those. Now I'm going to be putting Mod Podge on the wood. I'm going to attach my paper to the wood, and then after it dries for just a little bit, basically by the time I get done with these two pairs, I can go back and do the tops of these over the top of the paper. And so I'm using this really soft bristled brush. I think that brush strokes are less likely to show with this soft brush. And let me get a couple toothpicks. Toothpicks are my friend when crafting. I buy them in something like this. Now I don't remember, I know I got 2 cases of toothpicks in the package. I don't remember if I got them at Walmart or Dollar Tree, but you can pick them up for really next to nothing, and I really think they come in very handy. All right, where are you, Mod Podge? Now I want to put a decent amount, because if you don't, and if your paper doesn't adhere well, then it's going to lift up looking like an air pocket. So I'm putting quite a bit on. Make sure to get the whole thing coated. It doesn't matter if it goes over to the sides or not. We'll fix that in just a little bit. And then up here above the hole, make sure you get that. Okay, so now I want to put my paper on here, and you have a little bit of time to move this around. So you don't have to be in too much of a rush, but again, you don't have all the time in the world. So main thing is, first of all, make sure that your holes line up. If they don't line up, then your earring is useless. So I'll line those up and then adjust anything that I think needs adjusting. Now I'm going to put a piece of wax paper over the top, and then from the center I'm going to push out so that, number one, I can really get my paper to adhere down to the Mod Podge, and number two, if there's any excess Mod Podge under there, it pushes it out. All right, then what I want to do is pick up my earring, and if there's any excess on the sides right now, just go ahead and smooth that out. Those are really cute so far. Now, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and do a coat of Mod Podge right now over these. They're already dry enough to do that, but I'm going to run downstairs, have a bite to eat, and then I'll get started in another 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, time to get a good coat of Mod Podge on the front of these earrings. Again, I'm using a soft bristled brush. It's a little bit different than the one I just used. I washed it out when I went downstairs to eat supper, and well, it's still a little bit wet. So, changing brushes just slightly. I want to make sure that I really get some Mod Podge up against the side of the paper and on the top of the wood that goes around the earring. And just like before, I'll just hold on to it with the toothpick. That way I don't have to touch the front of it to hold this in place. Now I got a glob of Mod Podge. And then I want to try to pick it up from the sides and just get any excess Mod Podge settled down. Okay, so somehow I got a little bit of stain on the front of this. That's what I was trying not to do. And it's probably from having it on my fingers. I don't feel like that bled through. Nothing bled through on this other one. Maybe when I watch the video I'll figure out when that happened. Okay, I'm going to go back and put a coat of Mod Podge on the backs of these earrings, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. Then we'll finish up with the hardware. It's time to go ahead and put the hardware on the back, and to me nothing screams Christmas like silver. So I'm going to use silver on everything. I use sterling silver for the fish hooks since that's what's going through my ear, and then these are just some inexpensive jump rings that I got off of Amazon. I got these off of Amazon as well, and I'll link to both of those. Now, I redid this one because I just couldn't stand this brown coming through. And I said I didn't think it bled through, but when I pulled it off and I look at the back, I really do think that it bled through. So, before you put paper over stain, put a decent coat of Mod Podge on. I would let that dry thoroughly, and then you should be good to go. Since I can't get the fish hook to go directly into the wood, since the wood is so thick, to get these to hang straight, I'm going to need to use either 2 jump rings or 1 jump ring and then turn the loop of my fish hook 45 degrees. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and just use 2 jump rings on each pair of earrings. Now the jump ring that goes through the earring has to be fairly large because the wood is thicker than a lot of things. So I think I'll go with these. These are 2, 3, 4, 5. I think they're 6 millimeter, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I compared them to some other jump rings that I have labeled, and actually I think theirs are probably 8 millimeter. So I'm going to start with my favorite pair, which is the pair in the middle. Grab a hold of my jump ring with my needle nose pliers right beside the seam, and then just put it into my little jump ring opener, twist it, now before I close that up, I want to go ahead and get my really small jump ring. I don't want to have to open and close this one, it is so tiny. So tiny. So let's just drop that down. And then we can close this right back up. Okay. That comes together pretty nicely, but just barely push if you need to. All right, so now we're going to take the fish hook. And I'm going to twist that. Let's see, which is the side that opens? Okay, the open is over here. So instead of pulling it apart, I'm going to twist it. So I don't want to open it that way and make it wider. I just twist it up to the side. Then, let's see. It's hard for these old eyes to see. Oh, well, I'm trying to put it on the wrong part. All right. See if I have that facing the right direction. I do. So then I'll make sure I have this little ball out of the way. And then just twist that back into place. Very cute. Okay, I'm going to slow it down here because I want to show you something that I figured out. Maybe I knew this before and just forgot. I don't know. So you open the big jump ring, and before you put it on the wood, it's a whole lot easier just to drop this little bitty jump ring on before you attach your big jump ring to the wood. And that was my big discovery. Okay, so they're not going to lay right on the table. They're going to go to the side. But because of the way we have the 2 jump rings on, they will hang straight on your ear. So these are cute and Christmassy. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end. Until the next video, bye-bye.